Buenos dias, mis amigos. Me llamo Benjamin or Benji. Oh, English. Hello, my friends. My name is Benji, and here today I'm here to share a story called La Reina Mora. Where is the story from? From around the globe. Today's story comes from Mexico. What is Mexico? Mexico. Dun, 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 dun. Well, let's put Mexico here. And right. And today, mi Mexico. The story, today's story has several versions of the story. It's very possible that the story's origin comes from perhaps Spain or Italy. However, we're going to today say that the story comes from Mexico. Okay, so let's begin. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom with a king, queen, and their son. And their son said, Mom and Dad, I am ready to go out into the world because I want to find the most beautiful woman and marry her. And the king said, Vaya con Dios, mi mijo. He said, go with God, my son. Vaya con Dios. Okay. Y buena suerte, the mom says. Good luck. Buena suerte. So the prince goes around the world and travels. He's become so tired. One day he sees in his search for a beautiful woman, he finds a fountain. Oh, a fountain. I am very thirsty. I want to drink. So he drinks the water from the fountain. And after he finishes drinking, he doesn't notice. But on top of the water fountain, ding, there are a trio of oranges, right? 3 oranges hang from the top. Wow, I'm very hungry, and the oranges look so sweet. So he gets one of the oranges and says, oh, he cuts the orange. And when he cuts the orange, whoa, what happens? Magically, a maiden appears, a beautiful woman, a maiden. What is a maiden? A woman untouched by the hands of man, otherwise known as a virgin. She's beautiful, and the prince says, oh, I am a prince in search of a woman to marry. And she only says, I'm so hungry. Do you have any bread? And the prince replied, well, no, I don't have any bread. Oh, she cries and disappears back into the orange. The prince tries to cut the orange again, but it doesn't cut, and it's only now like a regular orange. So he decides to get the second orange, and in the second orange, he cuts it, and guess what happens? Whoa! Another beautiful maiden appears. And the prince says, I am a prince and I am searching for a woman to marry. This maiden was more beautiful than the second.
The first.
And then the first. I'm sorry, the first. Then the first. And the maiden says, but what does the maiden say? The maiden says, hungry. I'm hungry. Do you have any bread? And the prince says, well, no. And she cries, boo-hoo, and disappears back into the orange. And the orange becomes just a regular orange. The prince sees the third orange and decides, this time I will be ready. So he goes in search of some bread. And he finds a gypsy. Now the gypsy is in a wagon. And he stops her. Oh, gypsy, I need your help. And the gypsy says, yes, do you have any bread? Of course I do. And it's okay, well, I need some bread. Okay. The prince gives her 1 gold coin, and the gypsy is amazed. Wow, thank you. So the gypsy gives the prince some bread, and the prince takes the bread back to the fountain. And back here, the prince goes back to the fountain and finds the orange. And he grabs the orange. He cuts the orange. And what happens when he cuts the orange? Oh, wow, another maiden appears. This time even more beautiful than the other two. And the prince says, oh, I am in search of a woman to marry. And the maiden says, do you have any bread? I am so hungry. And the prince says immediately, yes, I have some bread. Oh, my prince, thank you. She eats the bread and she is so happy. And the prince says, he proposes, will you marry me? And of course I will. But you see, the problem was that, does she have any clothes? No, she's in the nude, naked. So he cannot take her in the nude. So he decides to ask the gypsy for help to keep her safe. So he takes the maiden, he takes her with him and goes back to the gypsy. Oh gypsy, I need your help. And the gypsy says, oh my goodness, who is this young woman? And the prince says, this is a woman I am to marry, but she needs clothes. I need to find some clothes for her. Can you keep her safe? And the gypsy said, okay. And the prince gives the gypsy another gold coin. Now, the gypsy takes the woman, the maiden, and puts her in the back of the wagon, puts the maiden back in the wagon, and the prince goes off to find some clothes for his new bride. Now the thing is, in the back of the wagon, the gypsy woman has a daughter. Ooh, now the daughter is very impressed, but knows that this was the prince and overheard things. So again, now the gypsy daughter says, oh, let me make your hair beautiful. And she starts to comb the hair. The maiden is very innocent. She combs her hair. However, her thoughts, the gypsy's daughter's thoughts, are very devious. So what she decides to do, she gets a hairpin, a very long, sharp hairpin, and stabs the maiden. But when she stabs the maiden in the head, the maiden transforms immediately into a dove, and the dove flies away with a pin stuck to her head. Flies away. Now when the prince arrives, the prince asks the gypsy woman, where is my bride? And the daughter comes out. Here she is. Wow, you look so dark. She looked darker. And she says, oh, my prince, I was out in the sun too long because you took too long to get me clothes. And this kind gypsy woman gave me some clothes. Oh, okay. So he marries the gypsy daughter. And for a while, they live in a castle. But from time to time, there is a dove, right? The dove that transformed, it was a pigeon or a dove. The dove comes and starts to sing and do some noises on the room of the prince's castle from every day. And one day there was a gardener that told the prince, there is a dove that is always singing on your room ledge. So the prince investigates. He goes, oh, really? So he looks at the dove and says, what a beautiful dove. Wow. So he takes the dove into his hands and notices, right, that on the dove's head, what is stuck in the dove's head? In the back of the neck, there's a hairpin. Wow, what is this hairpin? My goodness. He pulls out the pin. And guess what happens? the dove transforms back into the maiden. And the maiden tells him everything. The prince is so angered by this news that he hunts down the gypsies. He finds the gypsy woman that, again, he finds his bride and the mother and orders that they be put to death by burning at the stake. And that was the end of the story, because him and his new maiden lived happily ever after. And that was the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed today's tale coming from Mexico, La Reina Mora. I'll see you soon with our next story. Adios, amigos.